More signs of a housing slowdown as fewer people take out mortgages. The number of borrowers falls to its lowest level for 2 years. The Saudi king criticises Britain's efforts to tackle terror ahead of his controversial visit here. The inquest begins into the death of a teenage soldier killed in Iraq, as his mother says she wants the facts.
The family won't really have any closure till we find out exactly what happens.
And a Monet saver from Sainsbury, £100 million worth of famous paintings donated to the nation. Good afternoon. So is Britain's housing market now cooling? The number of mortgages taken out last month has fallen to its lowest level for more than 2 years. The news comes at a time when some analysts are forecasting a slowdown or even a sharp fall in the house prices. Here's Nicola Pearson.
So many flats and still they're building. Many landlords may have seen city centre apartments as a way of making an easy profit.
For the first time in 20 years, a reigning Saudi monarch is making an official visit to Britain. King Abdullah arrives this afternoon, but even before he gets here, his visit's causing controversy. He's been criticised for Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Meanwhile, in an interview with the BBC, the king said Britain is not taking the terrorist threat seriously enough. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, James Robbins. 2 men accused of attempting to blackmail a member of the royal family were named today. Ian Strachan, pictured here, and Sean McGuigan, both from London, are due to appear at the Old Bailey next month. They allegedly demanded £50,000 or said they'd release a video of an aide confessing to a sex act with an unnamed junior member of the royal family. The government says it strengthened its proposed climate change bill after critics said it didn't go far enough. Ministers will now be required to report to MPs on the environmental threat to the UK. The bill already included plans to cut CO2 emissions by 60% by 2050. Fusilier Gordon Gentle was 19 when he was killed in Iraq by a roadside bomb 3 years ago. His Land Rover was destroyed in the attack. His family have always argued that he would still be alive if his vehicle had been fitted with the right equipment. Well, the inquest into his death began this morning. Rob Watson is at Oxford Coroner's Court.
Gordon Gentle died in Basra on a Monday morning.
They've signed up for a job which puts them in mortal danger, and their success is vital for the future of their country. The new recruits of the Iraqi army face enemies in every direction, sometimes even in their own communities. The BBC's been given exclusive access to recruits in the Anbar province. John Brain has been to meet the British officer ultimately responsible for their training.
A troubled country, a man with a heavy burden.
The Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert has revealed that he's suffering from prostate cancer, but he says he'll continue in office. Mr. Olmert told a news conference in Jerusalem that he would need surgery, but the disease had been caught at an early stage and he had an excellent chance of recovery. A Russian man who murdered 48 people over a 5-year period has been jailed for life. Alexander Petrushkin, who stalked his victims through a park in Moscow, became known as the chessboard killer after it was discovered that he was recording each murder on a board and trying to fill all 64 squares. Stop throwing away your leftovers and start cooking them instead. That's the message from the government, and it's all about helping to save the environment. Every year, households are throwing out 6.7 million tonnes of food. That's a third of all the food we buy. And at least half of what we chuck is still edible.
Recycling your leftovers is a skill well known to anyone who lives.
Exactly, I was going to say, I think my mum used to make a broth out of the chicken bones and so on. But do you think it says something about society and that people are so used to buying ready meals and so on that they don't actually think about extending the life of, like a chicken, you say, or a salad?
Well, I think nowadays it is a question of time as well. People don't actually have the time to make good use of the food that they've got. Caroline Wordsworth, thank you. Good to talk to you. Thanks very much. The BBC has had hundreds of complaints on its website about the new voting system on Strictly Come Dancing after sports presenter Gabby Logan was voted off the programme. Gabby, who was one of the favourites to win, scored well with the judges but not so well in the public vote and ended up in the bottom 2.
Many viewers have contacted the BBC claiming the new system, which gives the public a greater say, is unfair. But the BBC says that everyone has their own opinion of who should get through and that shock departures have become a part of the show. At 1:30, a reminder of our top stories. There are signs of a housing slowdown. The number of mortgages taken out has fallen to its lowest level for 2 years. And for the first time in 20 years, a reigning Saudi monarch is making an official visit to Britain. King Abdullah arrives this afternoon. Still to come on News 24, a roundup of all the business news and all the day's sport, including Lewis Hamilton will be giving us his thoughts on his dramatic first season in Formula One. That's all from the 1 o'clock news this lunchtime, so it's goodbye from me. And on BBC One, we now join the BBC's news teams where you are.